Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Quite frankly, I get most of my news from you.
Joan Esposito.
Y'all ready for this?
On WCPT 820.
Hey, thanks for being here this Thursday, December 19th. Man, we're just going to jump right in. Yeah, the phone lines are open, 773-763-9278. I will say that more slowly, 773-763-9278. Phone lines are open, and man, is there a lot going on? Is there a lot going on? You have probably heard that President Elon Musk told Mike Johnson that the budget deal that had been negotiated wasn't good enough, and that it shouldn't be passed, it shouldn't be voted on. Well, after President Elon Musk said that, a little while later, Vice President Donald Trump came out and said the same thing. Yep, no, you're absolutely right, President Elon. We shouldn't do this budget deal. No, 1,000 times no, we shouldn't do it. Why? Because, well, you know, you agreed to things from the Democrats and debt ceiling. Yeah, we didn't tell you anything about how we felt about the debt ceiling before, but we don't like the debt ceiling. And, you know, you put in either we're going to get rid of the debt ceiling or you should have raised the debt ceiling. Didn't we tell you that? Did we forget to tell you that? I think we forgot to tell you that, but you didn't do it either way. So, ixnay on the udget bay. So a bunch of Republicans, Donald Trump said that if you don't go along with what I want and kill this budget, that I will make sure that in 2026 you are primaried. Whoopsie. He said the magic words. So the Republicans deserted Mike Johnson, and the budget deal has fallen through. Has fallen through. Yeah. There's supposed to be, or there needs to be, if we want to keep the government open, there needs to be a vote by tomorrow night at midnight. It was a 1,500-page bill. Do you think they can tweak it? You know, Hakeem Jeffries is like, hey, dude, this is on you. We negotiated in good faith. We had a bipartisan agreement. Again, just like with the immigration bill, you guys are the ones backing out. So you know what? This is on you. This is all yours. You take away the things that we negotiated, and we're not going to vote. You know, that's why we negotiated those things. Sheldon Whitehouse was on with Lawrence O'Donnell talking about this, and he said, you know, if this weren't so serious, their incompetence would be funny. It would be funny. He said that they clearly do not know what they are doing. It's a clown car. I called Donald Trump's cabinet the clown cabinet. Well, you know, it is the clown cabinet. Doesn't mean there aren't more clowns. There are plenty of clowns to go around. And apparently, they're in Congress. Sheldon Whitehouse said to Lawrence O'Donnell that the Republicans in Congress, or even Republicans beyond Congress, clearly have no idea what is going on. No idea what is going on. Again, you know, President Musk is new to all this, so he might not understand how this process works. But if Donald Trump really wanted something to do with the debt ceiling, either eliminating that altogether or raising it, if he really wanted that to be in the budget, do you honestly think little Mikey Johnson didn't get in touch with Trump and say to him, do you have any special requests? Anything really important to you? Because, you know, we're negotiating this right now. So if there's something that you really, really, really want, just tell me. You think Mikey Johnson didn't do that? I'm betting he did. So the question is, did President Musk make these posts on social media that this was a bad budget and it shouldn't be passed. Did he consult with his vice president, Donald Trump, before he did that? Do you think? Or did his vice president come out like an hour or so later and agree to make it look like they were all on the same page the whole time? How much longer is Vice President Trump going to put up with President Musk? Well, I guess we'll see. You know what? I bet every time Vice President Trump gets grumpy, Elon Musk, or Leon Musk, as the president has called him before, probably just takes out another wad of cash and says, "Here, catch." And then the grumbly little Trumpy is quiet and happy again. I think that's probably how it's playing out. You don't like what I just said? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not see this pile of money that I brought you today? Oh, pile of money. Let me go off in the corner and count it. Do whatever you want, President Musk. Sheldon Whitehouse was on MSNBC with Lawrence O'Donnell talking about the chaos that this clown car of Republicans who have no idea what they're doing is like right now. I want to share that clip with you. Listen to this.
If it weren't so deadly serious, it would actually be funny. I mean, it's hard to know what the right metaphor is. Is it the, gang that couldn't shoot straight? Is it the Keystone Cops? Is it the clown car? Whatever it is, the toddlers are clearly running the kindergarten over at the House Republican caucus. This is no blame to Senate Republicans. We had a deal. Everything was fine. Chuck's concern about, getting everybody together was about timing, about getting this bill done and through the parliamentary process before there was a shutdown. There was no thought that this would blow up until it got to the Republican clown car caucus, and now we are where we are. And if you want to talk about, the toddler analogy, that goes over to the executive branch. And whether it's like President-elect Musk or President-elect Trump or whoever it is, they clearly have no idea what's going on. This continuing resolution bill has been negotiated for weeks. There was plenty of time for Trump to say, I want the debt limit to be considered in this bill. Never once said it until the deal was concluded and we were debating the timing of passing it. And Musk saying that we shouldn't be passing legislation, I don't think he even knows that the National Defense Bill just cleared has not been signed into law by the president, with pay raises for all of our military personnel all around the world. Does he really want President Biden not to sign that bill? Does he know that we passed the WRDA bill, the Water Resources Bill, today on the Senate floor? Does he even know what a WRDA bill is? And does he really want a government shutdown? Is that the way they want to introduce themselves to the American people? Particularly as they're about to take on the trifecta. I mean, my God, you've got a competent House Democratic group, you've got a competent Senate Republican group, and you've got a competent Senate Democrat group. The one group that can't shoot straight is House Republicans. This is a problem of the Republican side.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let's go to the phone lines to South Bend, Indiana. Mark is on the line. Mark, thank you so much for the call today.
Hey, Joan, how you doing? It's always great to talk with you and to chime in with you. This is what I call at midnight, when the bell strikes at midnight tomorrow night, the start of an American plutocracy. And we kind of knew it was leaning that way, and it's been leaning that way probably since when Ronald Reagan started and beyond, that the rule of law does not affect anymore, The courts, the Supreme Court justices have been bought off. Both bodies of Congress, more so the House of Representatives. We have a bunch of incompetent Republicans, 2 women and a bunch of men, including the House Speaker, who have no clue about protocol and about the functions of true statesmanship. And it's a collusion of a lot of things, a lot of big corporate business, the NRA, and so on and so forth. And we're at this moment now where autocracy is set in, and I'm not surprised by it. And Tom Hartman's speaking about it for 5 years. And decisions, the Buckley decision in 1976, the Blah decision in 78, and Citizens United all paved the way for an American plutocracy. And right now we're in it. Elon Musk was on no election ballot that I think of that anyone had to vote for. But now he is definitely the ruler, President Elon Musk, and the true American plutocracy will start at midnight tomorrow night.
Unless, Mark, it's already started. By all accounts, at least an hour before Donald Trump came out and said that Republicans shouldn't vote on this budget, Elon was posting that. So who's in charge? It looks to me like the plutocracy has already begun. I think it's going to get worse. I think what was it? Somebody said that the wealth the cabinet Trump has proposed has something like 600. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in wealth. I mean, why wait? Why wait for the inauguration? Like I said, Kamala and Joe, I don't know what they can do about this. If I were Joe Biden, I'd come out today and say, you know what? If we're going to do a partial government shutdown, I want every employee that works for, SpaceX to know your paychecks are going to get cut first. So don't expect any kind of pay over the Christmas break, because if there's a government shutdown, you don't get paid. I mean, even if it was meaningless, even if it was illegal, somebody say something to stand up to these people. But you're right. You're right. I mean, rule by the wealthy is here. It shouldn't have started till January 20th, but I think it's here early because there seems to be no one who can effectively counter President Musk. Anyway, Mark, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate that very much. We're going to take a real quick break. I know there's a lot of people who want to join the conversation. I'm going to get to all your calls right after this.
Take Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive with you on the go by using the TuneIn app on your phone. Just search for WCPT 820. You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnight. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Every weekday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820.
773-763-9278. We are taking your calls here this first hour of the show. We're going to go to Blue Island right now where Larry is on the line. Hi, Larry. Thanks for calling in today.
Hey, how are you, Joan?
Oh, I'm kind of cranky. How are you?
I'm just saying. Hey, is this going to affect my Social Security check at all?
It depends on how long a government shutdown lasts. Unfortunately for us, the people who send us our Social Security checks are not considered essential workers. So the way the government shuts down in stages, and I am not quite sure how long it would take for Social Security checks to be affected, but it is certainly on the table. Absolutely.
The only reason is because I'm a friend of a friend of a friend. He's let me sleep in his garage. I got a heater in here now, but I still have to pay him for the storage. He's got stuff in here for me being in here, and I just hope this doesn't affect it.
Well, hopefully, if it does, he'll be willing to give you some time, because my understanding is that when government does get funded again, it won't be that we lose out on those checks we didn't get. The next check you get should have back pay as well as what you're due currently. And, Social Security is run a little bit differently than other programs, so I'm not exactly sure how or when a government shutdown affects Social Security, because everybody thinks it's funded by the federal government, but Social Security is not funded by the federal government. It's a standalone, self-supporting program. So I can't give you hard and fast information. I do know, though, that if there is some sort of payment that is cut off, that when payments start again, they make up the difference. So that's all I can tell you.
Because I got direct deposit with that, but, I mean, that's my only income right now. And, was it Saturday? I seen Horace Grant. He said hello.
Well, good luck, Larry. I hope your checks keep coming. And thanks for the call. I want to share with you guys, I said about the vote has to take place by midnight Friday. And then if it doesn't happen, then on Saturday, there is a partial government shutdown. Who is not affected? Our good friend Joe Brancatelli put out an emergency newsletter, and he wanted to remind people that, there will probably be crowds and delays at airports, but air traffic controllers are considered essential workers, so they're supposed to stick around. TSA are considered essential workers, so they are supposed to come in. Though if the past is any indication, if a shutdown drags on, TSA workers who really don't like to work without being paid, they have a tendency to start calling in sick. And if that happens, TSA will still be open, but you're probably going to see really, really long lines. Okay? So if you're planning to go in or out of the country, Customs and Immigration are also going to continue working. However, if you're trying to get your TSA pre-renewed or global entry renewed, good luck with that. When last time there was a shutdown, the backlog of people who wanted these services, it didn't get righted for months and months. So, and then Amtrak, if you are a train person, Joe Brancatelli says that if it's a brief shutdown, Amtrak will probably keep running, even though it is federally funded. But and if a shutdown goes on longer, probably the long-haul trains, which apparently are the least profitable for Amtrak, the long-haul trains will be shut down before the commuter trains. Joe Brancatelli says that short-haul service like Boston to Washington, that whole corridor, will probably be the last one to shut down. So you should still be able to travel by rail or travel by air. It's probably just going to be a mess. Lines will be longer and delays will be longer. Yeah, just a gift that keeps on giving. Let's go back to the phone lines. Jim from Chicago is on the line. Hey, Jim, how are you today? Jim? Jim. Lady B, no Jim?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
I just want to add to the bedlam. I was watching some outtakes from Fox News, and they have like a series of unqualified people who have no idea what they're talking about. They're talking about the food supply, what's in the food, and so forth. And then
because right now with a government shutdown looming, the food supply is where we should be focused. Oh,
right. And then they cut to Bobby Kennedy Jr. like he's got the answer to our food supply. But what's interesting, our favorite senator Tommy Tuberville from down in Louisiana way said, we got to cut those food stamps. Those people are living too high off the hog off the food stamps. So the people on the food stamps can just look forward. They don't have to worry about the food supply because they're not going to have any food to eat to begin with.
There you go.
Yeah, so that solves that problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have to split out what's in your weeds.
We haven't had a new farm bill, I think, in like 5 or 6 years. And we were going to extend the old farm bill. So between that and no migrants to work in the various dairy farms and vegetable farms and fruit farms, don't worry about it. You know what?
Exactly. Yeah. But think who's in charge. You know, we know that Musk is in charge, but Trump believes that he really can answer any question on earth. He believes he can tell you what's in the food supply.
But Jim, when you just make stuff up, I could answer any question. You want to know about some calculus theorems? X, Y, Z, parentheses, equals negative 45. I know everything, too.
I don't, Joe. Listen, all I can say is I give you credit. 3 hours a day with all the research and everything I did. And not only that, but the insanity we're involved in. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
You must wake up in the morning and go, my God, what a
I wake up in the morning, and I must admit, sometimes I think to myself, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, someone let me out.
I know it's the way, Joan. Thanks to believe. Today's Thursday, at least. Take care, Joan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah. It's true. And by the way, before we wrap this up about the government shutdown, which I'm sure we're not going to, we're probably going to talk about it all day, Hakeem Jeffries is still, despite the fact that he said, you know what, Republicans, this is on you. We didn't do it. We negotiated in good faith. We had a deal. If it's fallen apart, that's on you. But Hakeem Jeffries has told the Democrats in Congress not to go home, to be prepared to stay as late as it takes Friday, should a budget bill come before them. So, you know what? If at 11:59 Mike Johnson runs into the room waving a bunch of papers and says, I've got it, maybe we avoid a shutdown. By the way, speaking of Mike Johnson, again, we'll see how this plays out, but some Republicans are telling reporters that there are enough Republicans in Congress who do not like Mike Johnson, that it is distinctly possible that come January he will no longer be the Speaker of the House, that he may have lost the votes he needs. And some people are floating Elon Musk as Speaker of the House. Because, the Speaker of the House doesn't have to be a member of Congress. But I can't imagine that Elon would want to be reined in like that. Ooh, I got to be somewhere at a certain time, do a certain thing. Ooh, icky. I want to be on my jet. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more after this.
Take Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive with you on the go by using the TuneIn app on your phone. Just search for WCPT 820.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito. Join the conversation now at 773-763-9278.
I'm trying to use the phone!
Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
We are reading your texts and taking your calls, 773-763-9278. Let's go to Mount Prospect Frank is on the line. Hey, Frank, thanks for the call today.
Hi, Joan. How are you?
So far, so good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Number one, I want to tell you, I've been watching you my whole life. I'm 57 years old.
You started young.
You're just an awesome Chicago. Yeah, well, you're awesome Chicagoan. You know, you're just awesome. You know, it's fun to talk to someone who means so much to me and to Chicago.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
No problem. But Elon Musk is a problem. We've all known that. The problem with information is people think he's invented everything that he's in business with. I'm an Uber driver, and I want to tell you it's very scary, Joan, because I have people in my car that you would not think that were Trump supporters that are Trump supporters. I had a woman from Palestine in my car saying that he is the answer.
You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me.
I am not kidding you. And she was an older woman. She was my age, if not older. And there's nothing I did. Like at that point, I said nothing because there was nothing I could say because I just felt bad for her. Due to the position that she's at, that she thinks that he is going to help with things. I mean, the guy he has no driver's license. He's been chauffeured around his whole life. He's gotten all this money. How could you fail being a billionaire? You can't fail. And
I know. And it didn't. So she's completely unaware of the fact that he made no secret of the fact that he loves Benjamin Netanyahu, and whatever Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do in Gaza is fine with him. I think at one point he even said something like, if Benjamin Netanyahu wants Gaza to be a parking lot, if he wants to just raise it to the ground, you know, he's got to do what he thinks is right, and he's right there with him. That is just mind-blowing.
Yes, it blows my mind every day that I'm in the car and I talk to people. A lot of people are scared just like me, normal, regular people. I hate to say it. But the normal, regular people who voted for Trump, to me, were just bamboozled. You know, the disinformation, all that stuff works, and we just have to deal with it now. I hope we come out of this clean after 4 years. I hope after 2 years we vote all the Republicans in Congress out. I hope America sees what's happening. But it's scary because, as I see it, people have picked their sides, and I don't think that unless there's something very detrimental that people are going to vote another way.
Oh, well, on the one hand, I hope he doesn't do too much damage, but on the other hand, there's a part of me, Frank, that says, you know what, let's just let him do his worst, and all the people, like the woman in your car, and all of a sudden, when he is completely supporting Benjamin Netanyahu's desire to destroy the Palestinians, you know, how do you like him now? How do you like him now, folks?
Right. Me and you and everybody else on the Democratic side, and really just people who have common sense, I hope they see it. I hope it doesn't get too bad. I totally agree with you, Joan. And it was a pleasure talking to you. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm sure there's tons of people calling you. I just want to say I love you, and you mean so much to me and this city. Thank you so much for all you've given us.
Well, you're very kind to say that, and it means a lot to me to hear you say that. Thank you so much, Frank. That was my best holiday present so far. Let's go back to the phone lines. Our good friend Dave is on the line from Hoffman Estates. Hey, Dave, how are you?
Hey, Joan. We go from the upper high to the low. I'm on. Talking about that shutdown. That what Trump did that last time, that partial shutdown, that was almost 6 years to the date. And I was reading on a note I had that where he shut down just a third that time because of that spending bill when he had that hissy fit because they wouldn't give that how many billion for that wall. That time they wouldn't give in on that spending bill. But at that time, the third who had been affected included customs officers, immigration agents, and all other employees of the $250,000 Department of Homeland Security, half dozen other agencies, including Department of State, Justice, and Interior. All of these would stop receiving paychecks for as long as it takes for Trump and Congress to pass that and approve that spending bill back then.
Yeah,
and it would extend
right
to
before
the 4,
Christmas, people who have who depend on food programs would find that there's no more money to help them buy food for their families. Yeah, you know what?
There was 4,000 military personnel until January 31st would get their monies, and that was the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard was not part of, and it still may not be part of the Department of Defense. They were part of Homeland Security, so they were getting screwed, and then they were still expected to go to work but not get paid that time. And I remember they had like food banks and stuff going on at some of those Coast Guard bases and stuff, for the people that that were living on post and stuff, because they had no money, after that. And
people forget, and not only even if you're deemed an essential worker and you have to keep doing your job, you're not getting a paycheck, and it won't just affect the people not getting a paycheck. But those people not getting a paycheck, they're not going to be shopping as much. They're not going to be going to the grocery store as much. They're certainly not going to be, living high off the hog and going out to dinner. I mean, there's all of our jobs in our economy. It's so interconnected that and there's a lot of people who are affiliated with government organizations. Even if you're a personal contractor, an independent contractor, if the agency that you're supposed to work with has been shut down, what are you going to do? Go sit in an empty office? I mean, it's going to be bad.
Like at the airports and stuff. I don't know about TSA. I can't remember now if they were affected, but if customs officials and immigration agents would be, I would think that kind of goes hand in glove there. But like anybody that's traveling, overseas and stuff, and then they're worried about the security at the borders,
Mm-hmm.
You think these border agents and that are going to really, risk themselves, for no pay? I mean, they don't look at the long run there. They whine and complain about saying that not deporting and doing all of that. Well, they're not going to now if they ain't going to get paid. So
either of the two geniuses, President Musk or President Trump, they have no idea what a government shutdown means. They really don't. They really don't. They're like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yeah, and talking about with that Speaker of the House thing, do you think MAGAs are going to throw up Jim Jordan again?
Oh my God!
Because like you said, what's his name ain't gonna. He won't do that. He'd consider that a step down, I would think.
Musk wouldn't do it, and if Musk agreed to do it, he'd do it for a week before he got tired of it. I hate to say, but Trump really likes Jim Jordan.
Yeah, I know. He made a stab at it last time when they were.
But he couldn't get the votes.
No, that's just it. But I just kind of spitballing and thinking about that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, everybody.
Quiet,
Everybody thinks they want this powerful position. But it's not an easy job. It's not a fun job. And it's supposed to be a good job if your party's in power. That's when it's supposed to be the best job. Supposedly that's why Mitch McConnell, he didn't know that Republicans would take back the Senate. And he was just like, you know what? Being in the minority party is no fun. Well, apparently if you're in Congress, being in the majority party is no fun.
No, and I'll close with this, because I know you got others. Talking about that Netanyahu, they had one the other day. He was up, I don't know, was it on the Golan Heights or something, eyeballing that area in Syria that was kind of like that buffer zone that they've had since that 6-day war. And I'm sure they're talking about expanding, over in that area yet, you know?
There was something about Golan Heights settlements getting potentially approved by the Netanyahu government. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember years ago.
Well, you know, the guy we sent over to be the new ambassador has said Palestinians don't exist. There is no such thing as a Palestinian. Didn't you know that, Dave? There's no such thing as a Palestinian.
Oh, you're talking about that Huckabee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you ever read that book by Lev Parnas, he talked about how Huckabee loved Israel. He did 5, 6, 7 trips a year there. So, it was his party gift for him. All right, thanks, Joe.
Thanks for the call. We are going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
Stay on top of the latest news in and around Chicago with Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive. Every weekday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Attention, everyone.
Don't turn that dial. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, returns right now on WCPT 820.
We are talking about this pending government shutdown. President Musk pulled the rug out from the negotiated budget settlement, so Republicans tucked their tail between their legs and wandered away. So there's no budget deal, and if there is no budget deal by midnight Friday, we will start to experience a partial government shutdown as of Saturday. Let's go back to the phone lines. Ron is on the line from Chicago. Hi, Ron. How are you?
Hi. How you doing? Yes. On January 20th, will President Musk and Vice President Trump be sharing this Oval Office, or will Trump have to move to the office next to the kitchen?
Well, some people have suggested that Trump might make a good first lady to President Musk. And then the first lady, instead of Melania, since she seems to be AWOL these days, that Donald could be Elon Musk's first lady. What do you think of that idea?
I'll have to think about that one. Now, maybe after Christmas I'll think about that one.
Yeah, don't spoil the holidays by giving too much brain power to that one.
No. And poor JD.
Yes.
Is he going to be treated like somebody from a temporary agency? Yes. Your desk is over here.
If I were J.D. Vance, I would just hunker down and wait it out, because I don't believe that the Elon Musk-Donald Trump bromance, I don't think that bromance can last, because Elon likes too much the attention, the spotlight. And the fact that even if Donald Trump and Elon Musk talked about this budget and decided that they were going to tank it, Elon Musk came out publicly to call for that an hour, by the accounts I read, a full hour before Donald Trump posted something about that. I don't know. Donald isn't going to like President Musk taking the spotlight and seeming to be the one calling the shots. I don't care how much money he's got, and I don't care how much money he throws at Trump. Sooner or later, I mean, Donald Trump's in the White House. Last time he was in the White House, it was a huge grift for him. All those foreign leaders that came to the country and stayed at Trump's properties. You know, the U.S. military, there was one report that, you know, sometimes when they fly military missions, they have to overnight before they can fly the next leg. And there was a military flight that landed in Scotland. They had to overnight. And the military folks drove like an hour and a half so they could stay at Trump's golf course in Scotland. I mean, not the closest, not the cheapest. No. So he's got his own grift. At a certain point, he's going to wake up and he's going to realize that Elon's money isn't worth the humiliation of appearing to be Elon's puppet.
Right. And Trump wants to be in front of the camera. He doesn't want to share the camera with anybody.
Right.
Right. And in a couple of days, we have gone from maybe Canada should be the 51st state to a government shutdown. So that's a pretty wide range.
Yeah. Yeah. I would normally say that, maybe the way this would play out is that they would shut the government down for a day or two just so they feel like they accomplished what they set out to do. But everybody's going home for the holiday recess on Friday. They don't get this vote done by Friday night. They're not going to get this vote done. So they better wake up.
All right. Let's hope so. Okay.
Let's hope so.
All right.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for the call. Let's go to our good friend Steve calling in from the Gold Coast. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Fine, thank you. And I think it's important for people to understand that this is going to end up developing in stages. The government just doesn't shut down automatically. So the more essential entities will continue to function because that's deemed necessary. Things like Border Patrol, law enforcement, the military, and so forth. Things like Social Security and other programs such as this, those checks will continue to go out, whether it's a physical check or direct deposit, because we've been here before. If there is a silver lining for this, if we do end up shutting down, history teaches us that the party responsible for it gets the blame. And that means Republicans are going to get the blame. And so a lot of people who rely on a lot of government services and utilize the things that we just sort of take for granted, when those things aren't around, they're going to want to blame someone. And the longer it drags out, the more blame that there's going to be. So... and I think you're absolutely right with regard to this whole bromance that they have going. I mean, narcissists like Donald Trump don't want anybody overshadowing them. Right. And right now, there's more discussion going on about Elon Musk than there is about Donald Trump.
And I don't know if you've been watching social media, but that's, I read a bunch of newsletters. I look at the mainstream media. The last thing I do is glance at social media just in case there's something breaking or trending. And I could not believe the number of people referring to President Musk, President-elect Musk. And that is not going to go down well.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, Elon Musk, people tend to, elevate these kinds of individuals as if they're some sort of superhuman genius or whatnot. I mean, Elon Musk came from a good deal of money, wealthy family. He then was able to build the big wealth that we recognize him as having today based on, a government subsidy, a program initiated under the Obama administration in order to create electric cars. And Tesla got a huge $400 million grant for that. And, and off they went. But make no mistake, Tesla, the major revenue source that built Elon Musk's wealth, was a product of U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Yes, of course, he did.
It's rather ironic.
Tesla would have gone bankrupt without government help.
Yeah, and so now, hey, government's too big. We need to start slashing all these giveaways. Oh, we didn't need to slash yours, apparently, when you wanted it.
Mm-hmm, so, exactly. And it's different. That's what these guys are. And that's frankly what Republicans are, too. If it helps me, it's good and okay. But 2 years later, if it helps you, it's bad.
Yeah, pull the ladder up right behind me. I'm the last person up the ladder, and I'll just pull it up behind me, and the rest of you can sort of make do. But, look, whatever you may think of it, Keynesian economics is how modern Western democracies function. And that means government has a huge role in the economy. Now, if you want to change that, you don't do it overnight and shut down the entire economy. You do that over generations, okay? I don't believe it's a good idea. I think government has a role in our economy. But this idea that you're just going to be able to cut across the board on a huge basis and it's just not going to affect anything, it's going to plunge us into a deep recession. It could even plunge us into a depression. And again, people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk are not economists. They don't understand public policy on this
Steve,
level.
did you hear Jerome Powell yesterday? He lowered the Fed interest rate by 1/4 point, but he also said they were originally planning like 4 more rate drops, but he said there'll be maybe 2 because he already sees with Trump's policies the seeds of inflation. And so,
exactly.
He's not going to drop the rate if inflation starts to rise. He says he sees that coming. So instead of 4 more rate drops, there will be maybe 2 more. That's why the stock market lost its mind yesterday.
Exactly. I mean, these are economists. This is their job. It's their job to look forward several months, a year. And again, if these are the policies that we're going to adopt, if we're going to adopt tariffs, which means that we're going to basically consumers are going to be paying a lot more for everything, then that means that's going to create inflation. So we're going to be going backwards on the inflation scale. We were actually close to being right at where we should be just before the election. And now we're moving in the other direction. So if that's where we're going to go, then the Fed has got to account for that. And they need to, again, put the brakes on the whole notion of, cutting interest rates, because that was the idea. It's like, okay, now inflation is normalized. We're going to start cutting interest rates, which will stimulate the economy, because that's that balancing act. But if inflation is going back up, well, there is no impetus to lower interest rates. And again, this is the question that economists were asking during the campaign. Mr. Trump, how are you promising these things? I mean, this is economics 101. You do this, and that means Americans are going to be paying more. Your promise was to lower prices. This is going to increase prices.
I can't believe that, because ever since Donald Trump has been talking about things like tariffs, everybody and their uncle has been saying tariffs are taxes, tariffs are going to make things more expensive. And I don't know whether it's just one of those things. Donald Trump gets these ideas in his head that he won't let go, no matter how foreign they are to the actual reality of life. And the fact that he is still talking about tariffs like somehow it is going to boost our economy, I really don't get that. Either, nobody's willing to say anything to him, or sometimes he just decides things in his mind and he sticks with them, and the way when he was determined that they were eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, and even though everybody, even the Republicans in the local government said it wasn't happening, he kept saying it. He gets these ideas he won't let go of.
Oh, absolutely. And there are certain sectors where it's just not going to do anything in terms of stimulating productivity here in America. I mean, look, with all due respect to people who worked in the American automobile industry, American automobiles just simply aren't as reliable. They aren't as good. They're not perceived as being as good as the Japanese and Korean alternatives. And in terms of the luxury car market, well, people like German luxury cars, some English, and a few others. But, the reality is that people are not going to all of a sudden say, okay, well, a Toyota is going to cost me $2,000 or $3,000 more. Okay, I'm going to go out and buy a Ford instead. No, because Fords aren't as reliable. They don't have the kind of resale value. So, again, it's just going to be, I'm going to end up paying more for the Toyota that gets imported, or the Mazda, or the Honda. So,
there was just an article that I was reading last night that said that people are now rushing out. They were planning to buy a car in the next 6 or 8 months, they're buying it now. They're also going out and buying appliances right now rather than waiting 6 or 8 months, because people are convinced that the prices of these things are going to go up $1,000, $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah, and companies are doing the same thing with regard to anything that they need as far as their supply chain and so forth. Front loading everything, get as much as we can here, and hopefully, that will offset some of the losses that we're going to incur. But I mean, sooner or later, if you do then front load things, and that means 6 months from now, then there aren't going to be the kind of orders that we usually have. And then what's that going to do then for certain sectors of the economy? But again, all of us have been asking these for years. I mean, it's been a decade. I'm still waiting for the Trump health care plan.
Yeah, really. It's coming in 2 weeks, Steve. Steve, I got to wrap it up. I got to get to a break.
Take care, Joe.
And by the way, Frank, who called from Mount Prospect about the Social Security, and I know we're not going to get a chance to take another call, but Ken was on the line. Social Security has dedicated funding. It is not part of the budget process. You will get your Social Security checks, okay? And you'll also get disability benefits that come through Social Security, okay? So those checks are separate from this budget process. They will continue. So, Frank, hopefully that puts you in a better financial position. We are going to take a break for news. We are going to come back with Eric Zorn after this.
The Thom Hartmann radio program provides all of the intelligence, information, and insight you'll need to win the water cooler wars. Weekdays 11 to 2 right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
The reason that I listen to you from the infamous other side, you will call a spade, and if it's indefensible, you will not defend it. And you know what? I can respect that.
On WCPT 820.
I am very pleased to welcome back to our airwaves Eric Zorn, founder, editor of the Picayune Sentinel newsletter. Eric, how are you? Eric? Oh, Eric, we think we lost you. Lady B's gonna call you back real quick. While Lady B is doing that, might as well do this. We've been giving away $25 gift cards to Fry the Coop. I'm going to give another one away right now. If you are the third caller, 773-763-9278. I want to read you this text that came in today. We went to the Elmhurst Fry the Coop last night. We were very impressed. The atmosphere was comfortable and the food was amazing. The portions are very generous. We had enough left over to enjoy it again tonight for dinner. The next time we go, hubby and I will get one order of chicken tenders and split it. The dipping sauces are huge. I really like the Coop sauce. It's a cross between Thousand Island and tartar sauce. Delicious. We let them know that we heard about them from WCPT. Thank you, Barb from West Chicago. Barb said it better than I could. Lady B, as soon as she gets Eric back online, she's going to start answering the phone lines. And like I said, if you're the third caller, WCPT has a $25 gift card for Fry the Coop. By the way, there's 9 of them around. Barb went to one that's near West Chicago. They are in Oak Lawn, Chicago, Elmhurst, Darien, Prospect Heights, Tinley Park, and Bolingbrook. And they have all different kinds of chicken presentations for you. If you want to get all the information about our contests, go to WCPT820.com and click on the lovely contest tab. Now, let's introduce our good friend Eric Zorn. Eric, are you there?
I am here. I've been here the whole time. I don't know what's going on with my technology, but here I am.
Well, maybe we didn't want to hear you. Maybe we just shut you off and made you think you were on the radio when you were not.
That would be so like you. That'd be so like you.
We have the power.
It's so like you, Joan, to do that to me.
And I want to announce to the audience that Friday, January 3rd, Eric Zorn is going to be here hosting Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, the entirety of the day.
Yeah, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I do that every 4 months or something like that. It seems like I'm coming in because you've got something else going on, and it's always fun. It's always fun to talk to your listeners and talk to the guests, and looking forward to it.
Good. Yes, I'm taking a little bit of extra time off this holiday season because I took an entire week of vacation over Thanksgiving and did nothing but lay in bed with COVID. And that ticked me off so badly because I felt like I'd really cheated myself. So I'm going to try again over this upcoming holiday season. And so help me God, if I get sick again, you're going to hear me screaming all the way to the studio.
You must have had it pretty bad. I tested positive for COVID on Tuesday this week, and I've been sort of fighting it off a little bit. But I was able to work yesterday, and I'm feeling fine today. So
I've had it 5 times, and there have been some times that I barely felt sick at all. I remember the first time I got it, I actually fell asleep on Friday and didn't wake up until Tuesday night. So that one was certainly an interesting experience. But I will say this last go round was the sickest I've ever been with it. I was miserable. No. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I was miserable most of Tuesday. Well, the end of Tuesday and into Wednesday. But then by yesterday afternoon, I was back. My doctor was not. He prescribed Paxlovid for me, but he said that maybe I might not want to take it if the symptoms weren't bad. So I'm staying off the Paxlovid. I'm just treating it like a bad cold, and this is my 3rd time. 5? You've had it 5 times, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, my families keep saying, "What's wrong with you? Why are you broken? You should. Anybody who gets sick this much, you'd think would have a robust immune system after fighting all this stuff off. But it's like, thank God I'm not a kindergarten teacher. I'd probably be hospitalized the entire school year with all the germs."
Yeah, well, actually, but if you were a kindergarten teacher, you'd probably have built up a pretty good immune system by now.
Well, yeah, there's that
you'd
too.
Been exposed to those snotty kids all day. I'm sure you'd be pretty well off by now. But
Did you miss out just on any of the music of good cheer? If you were sick?
No, I didn't. I and one of my cast members both were tested positive on Tuesday, but we were fine throughout the whole weekend. We had a nice run of shows. Sold out, I think, 4 out of the 5 days at the Old Town School, and I had a fine time. I was feeling great. And then Tuesday came. I started feeling a little bad, worse, and then said, I better take a COVID test. And that pink line showed up right away, so I had it.
Well, I hope you have a mild case. And, I'm not, I don't know if you're an overachiever, but the bar is set at 5 rounds of COVID, so you kind of got to work at getting it twice more at least.
God, yeah. I mean, Johanna, my wife, had it a month and a half ago, and I thought, well, I'm certainly going to get it now, and I didn't get it. I mean, and we didn't particularly avoid each other. She didn't quarantine in the house or anything. We just said, well, you know what? I mean, we felt like by the time she was diagnosed, we'd had so much contact that it was silly to try to avoid it, but I didn't get it then, so I thought, well, maybe these vaccines are working, because I've gotten all the shots. So anyway.
Well,
but I'm fine.
I believe that even if you still get COVID, because I've had all the shots too, I think that you have it less. And in the interest of full disclosure, I honestly do have a compromised immune system. Not compromised like the people who have organ transplants, but the chemo that I took, back in the day when I had cancer, sort of rewrote some of my bone marrow. So there are certain immune cells that my bone marrow just doesn't really like to produce anymore. So, maybe that's the gift that keeps on giving. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I certainly don't want to get it again. I mean, and the thing is, like, if I had, I kind of feel like, man, I wish I hadn't tested, because I've had to cancel some Friday night plans already. And if I hadn't tested, I would have said, oh, I'm over this cold. It was just a little cold. But
well, I wasn't going to test this last time because, like you, my symptoms were. I actually got in touch with my doctor and I said, I think I'm getting a sinus infection. I got this tiny little sore throat. My nose is running. And my doctor messaged back, you've been sick a lot lately. I think you should take a COVID test. And if it wasn't for that, I could have done the same thing as you. I could have said, I just have a little runny nose. I'm okay. And then it got worse. But
yeah.
Anywho, I'm glad that you are going to be sitting in. I think you bring a really interesting voice to this radio show. Do you have any guests planned so far?
I haven't got them lined up yet, but I'm thinking about it. It's one of those things that I've sort of been putting off. it's hard to get people to make commitments that far in advance too. And also, I want to see what's going on in the news to see if there's newsy stuff. They tell me that you tend to take the first hour on. It's a Friday,
you can
right?
It's your show if you're here. You can do whatever you want. I've started because I realized I love talking to guests. And sometimes people call in and they have interesting questions to ask the guest. But usually, if I'm talking to a guest, it's just me and the guest. And I really felt like I wasn't giving, this is supposed to be a talk show where people can call in. And I really felt like I wasn't giving the audience enough of an opportunity to have their thoughts and voices heard. So I recently have started setting aside the first hour of the show where I talk about the news stories that have made an impact on me, and sometimes I play them, relevant sound clips, and then I let people call in and either comment on what I'm talking about or raise issues of things that are important to them. So, but you do whatever you do. It's the Eric Zorn show that day.
So it sounds like you're talking like the Keith Olbermann's countdown, where he did the 5 top stories in the day.
You're going to be here on Friday. On Friday, I actually take the whole first half of the show. Like tomorrow, I won't have a guest till 3:30. During the week, Monday through Thursday, I spend the first hour talking and taking calls. But on Friday, I spend the first half of the show doing that. So again, Eric, you should do what makes sense to you, what would be fun, because I think that's important.
It's always fun. It's just a great chance. And sometimes I get people on who I wanted to talk to. Last time that I subbed for you, they had already set up a guest for me, and she was an expert from I forget which university on Ukraine. Oh no, I'm sorry, on Hungary. On Hungary, and she was fascinating. A professor, I think from Princeton, but I'm not sure. But just told lots of stories about Viktor Orban and his similarities to Trump. And this is just a lot of history that I was only dimly aware of. I think it was like the most educational half hour that I've spent in a long time. And I hope your listeners felt the same way, that sometimes you get somebody on who well, this is going to be a tough half hour to talk. And then by the time we just get into the half hour and I'm like, oh no, it's over.
I know. So, some guests, I love talking to people who have an area of expertise that I lack, and which is a lot of them, and that they can share information with me. Experts on what's going on in Gaza, experts on what's going on in the media, experts what's going on in political parties or the DNC. I really love the fact that that people who have this area of expertise are willing to share their knowledge with us. So if you want help setting up guests, I can help you. Andy can help you. Julia can help you. If there's an area a topic you'd like to talk about, but you don't know what guest would be able to address that, we can help you out with that. No problem.
Well, thanks. One thing that I am interested in doing is doing one of those sort of year and preview ideas, which is where you decide what questions you have about what's going to happen in the next year and what you predict will happen. I don't like to frame it as predictions, more like just guesses, because obviously predicting the news is a mug's game. But it's always interesting to think about the known unknowns, as they say, to talk about what do you really think is going to happen with Trump and his immigration plans, and what do you think is going to happen with RFK Jr. Which of the cabinet secretaries are going to be rejected by the Senate, if any? Things like that. I mean, those are things that we're all thinking about. We're all wondering about, because for me, the turning of the year is always kind of a profound moment. And it's sort of a refreshing of the psyche. And I've always been one for New Year's resolutions, although I don't really know what I'm going to do this year. But I'm sure I'll think of something. But
we have a tradition in our house that we all take a piece of paper and we write New Year's resolutions, and then we put them in an envelope, and the envelope is sealed. And when the next New Year comes around, before we write our next New Year's resolutions, we open up the envelope and we grade ourselves on how well we did the things that were listed. You never have to admit what's in there, But you do have to admit to the rest of the family, like, okay, I did 3 out of 10, or I actually did 7 out of 9, or, that kind of thing. So we've been doing that for years. As a matter of fact, I saved the envelopes. I have them all taped to a wall in my office, and they go back. I can't see all of them. They go back about 10 years.
So are they all things like read more books, eat better,
it's whatever,
exercise
whatever
more?
you want. Whatever you want, whether it is a personal goal or something that you want to accomplish in your professional life, it's very private. It is just for you. In the next year, I want to, do this. I want to, have this as an accomplishment. And it's all very personal. It's all very private. So whatever, wide open. One thing.
But
what? Go ahead.
But isn't the point of a New Year's resolution is you announce to people around you what you're going to do so they can help you keep to it? But if you say, okay, I'm going to eat less cheese, for instance, and the people in your family will say, Joan, put away that cheese stick.
There's no rule that says you can, in our house, that says you can't share, but generally we're pretty private about it, because sometimes, you might have a goal that you don't want to be pressured about. And, it's like, if I can do it myself, I will, but I don't want anybody to be watching me and saying, oh my God, there she goes again eating cheese, So I think they're more true and realistic if they are kept private. But there's no rule that says you can't share. But we kind of look at them and we kind of roll our eyes.
The kind of resolutions that I tend to have are just to be more focused in what I do, is to not be so easily distracted, to set my mind at a task and work at it half an hour at a time without checking my email or my texts or browsing for something online. Just trying to because I think one of the big problems that I have, I think a lot of people have, which is that there's so many distractions just right in front of you all the time. Check your social media, check it, and to lash yourself to the mast and get that done is really, really important. So
yeah, I
work on
definitely.
that.
I definitely agree with that one. You said something a few minutes ago about how you want, when you're filling in, to talk about what 2025 is going to look like politically. I have a question for you. One of the things that I've been talking about with the audience is that it doesn't seem like the person who's going to lead us, who's going to fight for us, has emerged yet. Since the election, I've been decrying, as have others, the fact that, for the most part, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have just checked out. I mean, I think Kamala Harris has made 2 public speeches since she lost the election, and she's telling everybody, don't give up, we're still going to fight. And then she disappears. I saw the schedule today. She's in Los Angeles. Apparently she flew to Los Angeles for the holidays, and, it's like this, it feels like there's a leadership vacuum. I think that there's a lot of people who really want to stand up and really want to limit the damage Donald Trump can do. But I don't yet see, somebody texted in today, Ted Kennedy was the lion of the Senate and was always very, very vocal. Who's that person now? Who is that person now, Eric? Or who might it be?
Chuck Schumer is
oh, for God's sake, please. Please, are you kidding me? The man is professorial. I want somebody who's passionate. I want somebody who can talk to people, not like a professor, like a real person who can make people feel things, who can make people want to follow them. Chuck Schumer? Right. I don't think so.
No, I tend to agree with you on that. But of course, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader. But in terms of who is that star? Who is that that emerging personality on the in the Democratic side? I can't name that person really right now. There's nobody who is jumping out at me as for instance, there's nobody jumping out at me as the obvious candidate in 2028 for the Democrats. No one else.
Tom Hartman, in his daily email, made an interesting observation on this, because he was kind of decrying the lack of Democratic leadership as well. And he said, when Trump was first elected, we heard a lot from Gavin Newsom. We heard a lot from J.B. Pritzker about, J.B. Pritzker, this, Donald Trump, is going to come after Illinois. He's going to have to come through me. And then it was like after initial outbursts, they've both gone silent. And I don't know, maybe everybody's just decided, we're going to check out and enjoy the holidays and get started again in 2025. But it doesn't seem I want somebody out there, maybe not every day, but once or twice a week out there saying, you know what? Pete Hegseth is terrible. He is quite possibly the worst person ever to be nominated to lead the military. What are Republicans thinking, even meeting with him? I want somebody who is passionate. I want somebody who addresses the issues of the day in a clear way. I'm so sick of Democrats with the whole, we're going to meet and we will vote and we will vote our values and I'm like, oh my God, wake me up when he's finished.
Well, one of the problems that the Democratic Party has is that it has not really refreshed its bench much. That you have Schumer and you have Nancy Pelosi, who of course is now just a congresswoman, but a lot of these leaders and you get Bernie Sanders, and you got a lot of these very old leaders, and they haven't really brought up the new blood, and there isn't anybody out there who really jumps out at you. I happen to think that Pritzker is a good governor, and I think he could make a plausible case for being the president. But he's not someone who's right now is exciting the nation. So or seeming to step forward to lead the nation. Yeah, it's a problem, and it's one I think Democrats in general are discouraged and dispirited rather than energized right now. And I compare
the
this to
leadership seems that way, but I don't get that from the rank and file. The people I see posting, they're ready, willing, and able to fight, but they feel like who are the people who are going to lead the charge? Talking about the old guard, what did you think of the fact that with Nancy Pelosi's backing, 74-year-old cancer victim Jerry Connolly is now head of the Oversight Committee, defeating AOC's bid to take on that role by something 130-some votes to 80-some votes. People are saying, well, here it is again, Democrats having a chance, to bring in a, new leadership and instead going with the old guard. What do you think?
Well, I don't. AOC is a very polarizing figure, and it might have been, she might not have been the best choice for that. But I do agree that having a 74-year-old, he's being treated for cancer right now, right?
Yes, he's undergoing treatment.
So it's not like he's simply a cancer survivor.
No,
he's actually in treatment. And it kind of gets back in some ways to this failure of Joe Biden to step aside when it was pretty obvious that he needed to step aside. There's some new reporting out from the Wall Street Journal about how people inside the White House knew early on that he was really not up for the job and that they really had to prop him up in a lot of ways. And the fact that he didn't announce after the midterms that he was not going to run for re-election, and then this campaign that they had to throw together at the last minute for Kamala Harris. And I'm not sure Kamala Harris was the best nominee. I thought she was good. I thought she ran an amazing campaign given the amount of time she had and the problems she had being linked to a very unpopular president. But I think it would have been really smart for the Democrats to have had a primary process, a normal primary process, and maybe we'd have a new star, maybe we'd have a new president by now, rather than the situation that the Democrats are in. And when I talk about being dispirited, I'm thinking is there going to be a women's march on Washington? women's health care, reproductive rights are in far greater threat now than they were 8 years ago. But I don't sense that kind of momentum. I sense people just kind of resigned to having to go and be kicked around by the boot of this schoolyard bully that Trump is clearly aiming to be. I just feel like people are just so discouraged, and because there was such excitement for Kamala Harris that I picked up in my circles. I knew people who went and canvassed who'd never done it before, who made phone calls who'd never done it before, who really thought that this was going to happen, that there was enough anger and distrust of Donald Trump that Kamala Harris was going to win anyway, even though she had about 100 days to throw a campaign together. She was going to be able to pull it out. I fell for that. I believed it. But then once that balloon got popped, it feels like everybody just went, "Oh no, what are we going to do?" We had everything going for us. We had this really weird, irresponsible, nasty man running for president on the other side, and we had Kamala Harris, who's she wasn't perfect, but she was a pretty good candidate, very likable, and everybody seemed to forget the chaos of the Trump years. And the Democrats lost support in all kinds of minority communities where they used to have it. And it was just, at the end of the day, I mean, it was a very close election, all things considered. What, a point and a half, maybe, a percentage?
Yeah, last I saw, he won by 1.4%. That was how much more vote he had.
So it's not a mandate. It's close to a landslide. It was a narrow defeat, and one that, you in the woulda, coulda, shouldas, if we would have had a candidate that was, a little bit, had a little bit more runway. Even if Biden had announced, if Harris had won the primaries, if she'd been exposed to the voters, if she'd been able to answer some of the questions that she didn't have great answers for, I think that 1.5%. It could have swung. It could have swung those some of the battleground states, and she might have won. But Biden had to hang on, and I think people talk about his legacy is going to be tarnished by the Hunter Biden pardon. I don't think that's going to be nearly in the first 10 paragraphs of his political obituary. I think the fact that he hung on to office too long and probably, arguably, cost the Democrats the presidency in 2024 because of his vanity is going to be the thing that sticks out in my mind. Even because he had a relatively successful presidency, I would argue
he did have a successful first presidency, first 4 years. What I don't understand is he announced before he ran against Trump the first time that, he understood his age. He was going to be a one-term president. He was going to be a transition president. And what I think is sad, and maybe this had something to do with the fact of how long he's been in political life, it seems to me that the people who surrounded him were not the A-team. And where was the person? Where was the voice? Where was Nancy Pelosi then to meet with him and say, you know what? I think you've done an incredible job, but you're not getting any younger, and I think your age is going to be a real problem. I think you have to keep your promise, and you have to step aside. Instead, Nancy, and apparently Nancy Pelosi was the only reason that we even got Kamala Harris. She at the end, she boxed him in. But dear God in heaven, nobody else, like you say, the Wall Street Journal, his aides, they knew that they were working around him, not through him. I don't understand where it went wrong. I agree with you. Kamala did the best she could with what she had, but it was too little too late. And I just got so wrapped up in this conversation and apparently the sound of my own voice that I've just blown through a break. So I apologize, Lady B. I apologize, Eric. We will take that break right now and be back with more after this.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
I am joined by Eric Zorn, the founder and editor of the Picayune Sentinel newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday and every Thursday. He is a former columnist at the Chicago Tribune. And today's issue of the Picayune Sentinel is jam-packed with good stuff. And Eric, I love the fact that you do a weekly segment. That's so Brandon, because the Chicago mayor seems to be the gift that keeps on giving as far as people who want to report on him and write about him. The most recent wrinkle, this vote that has been called, or a meeting, not a vote necessarily, a meeting of the Chicago School Board set for tomorrow evening, where on the agenda is the potential termination of board president Pedro Martinez. But I did read, I went to Chalkbeat, and even though it is an agenda item that they're going to discuss his termination, they do not necessarily have to vote on it, which is... So I guess they're just going to sit around and chat. Like, well, I don't know. Do you think we should do it? I don't know. Do you think we should do it? You know? So it's on the agenda, but it is not necessarily the case that he will be fired tomorrow night. What a strange situation this whole thing has been.
This whole story with Martinez is just, it reflects so poorly on the mayor. You know, that the school board that he had appointed, the 7-member school board that he had appointed earlier, resigned rather than get into this fracas where they had to choose between firing Martinez for cause, which they really didn't have a cause. The cause that they have is that he's not agreeing to take out the payday loan in order to pay the teachers what they want for the new contract. And so they were trying to gin up some reason to fire him, because if they just and terminate him, you know, through a contract, or they force his end his contract, they've got to give him some long runway to stay in the job. I think it's like 4 months he stays in the job.
Yeah, something like 180 days he's allowed to stay in the job, and they have to pay him his salary, and then they have to pay him like a severance check. So, you know. And so I think the 7-member school board resigned because he sued school board members and the school district. I think it was out west, maybe Nevada or something, where he was employed previously, when they tried to fire him under false pretenses. So it's clearly a false pretense firing, and the fact that I think the majority of principals from Chicago Public Schools have signed a letter asking the board to keep Martinez on, that they have confidence in him. And the roots of this, of course, are in Mayor Johnson's connection to the Chicago Teachers Union, that he used to work for them. He was an organizer for them before he became mayor. Well, actually, while he was also still a Cook County commissioner. And they the Chicago Teachers Union funded his campaign, so it was widely thought that when it came to negotiating for the teachers for a new contract, that he'd basically be sitting on the same side of the table with them. And the contract negotiations have been led by Martinez, who he kept on as school CEO. And Martinez has not folded to all their demands. And because he's not folded, this has Stacey Davis Gates in a snit, and it has the teachers union worried that the new school board. Now, of course, the other wrinkle here is that there's a 7-member appointed school board. They all resigned. Johnson appointed 7 new people to be on the board, and these are the people who are now in charge. But starting next month, there's going to be a 21-member board, 10 of which are elected, and not all of them are in line with the mayor's agenda. So there's a lot of fear that there's going to be a lot of open fighting about what goes on with the contract. It's going to delay the contract, and the teachers aren't going to get a good deal. So the teachers union has been pressuring the school board to come up with a contract, and the school board, the new school board that Johnson appointed, also has been pressuring Martinez to come up with a contract. That they want to do this really fast. I mean, these negotiations have been going, I think, since April, and they want expedient resolution to this contract.
And so if there is a metaphorical knife stuck in Martinez's back on a Friday before a holiday week, the fingerprints on that knife, on that metaphorical knife, are going to be Johnson's. It's just going to be his move. It's like when he got rid of Dr. Arwady, the health commissioner, because he didn't like the way she had closed schools during the pandemic. And Arwady was a very popular figure, and that angered a lot of people, including me. I thought she was an MD. I thought she was honest. I thought she was doing a good job, and Johnson fired her because he just was annoyed at her.
And even before he fired her, she used to do these weekly chats where people could write in questions. He made her stop doing that.
Yeah. So this is just in my That's So Brandon. Just about every week I will find the latest stupid thing that he's done.
But there's more. There's more in this week's That's So Brandon, because you're talking about the budget vote, and you have some of the most amazing quotes from two progressive city council people. You would think that they would be in Brandon Johnson's corner. They voted for the budget, but man, oh man, yes, I'm going to give you this vote, but with my other hand, I'm going to smack you across the face.
Oh, yeah, these are Alder Maria Haddon of the 49th Ward and Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward, both members of the Progressive Reform Caucus. They slammed Johnson after this vote. Now, Emma Mitz, who's not exactly an ally of his anymore after he sort of screwed her over on the City Council Housing Committee of chairmanship, she was going to get it, and then he yanked it away from her because he wanted to reward one of his other allies. So you see him, he's lost control of the council completely.
Yes.
Now, I think in some ways that's not such a terrible thing for a council to be have its back up and not necessarily be rubber stamping everything. I mean, that a mayor does these days of 49-1 approvals of budgets and so on. That was not good either. You don't want the council just to say whatever you say, Mr. Mayor. But you also want to have a mayor who knows how to work with people, knows how this process works, and how you've got all these different constituencies and stakeholders, and you got to get them together before you come out and say, okay, we're going to raise property taxes by $300 million. I know I said I wasn't going to raise property taxes at all, but this is what I'm going to do. And then everybody chokes on that, and then they call a news conference and they vote 50-0 against that, and so he's got to lower it to $150 million. That doesn't hold, so he lowers it to $68 million, and now there's no property tax increase in the final budget. And I happen to think that of all the options that the mayor had, the property tax increase was the most progressive, in that when you have a bigger, nicer house, you pay more property taxes than if you live in a small bungalow somewhere, and so the property taxes tend to hit wealthy people a little bit more than they do lower income people, and so in that respect, it's more progressive. These other things, it's basically a bunch of taxes and fees. They're going to get you on streaming services. They're going to get you on grocery bags. They're going to get you on if you have parking downtown. A lot of these things are going to hit people regardless of their income level. And he had to do it, and he did make about $158 million in cuts, which I think a lot of people were that's made the budget easier to swallow for some of these alders, because they did ask him for cuts. But the mayor has he's got to learn how to work with people behind the scenes in order to get buy-in.
The collaboration mayor, the mayor who's all about collaboration.
Well, that's what he says. That's what he says about himself. But he hasn't shown a real facility for collaborating. Even down to this thing like the shot spotter thing. And I'm sure there's a good debate to be had about shot spotter. But the fact is that there were alders in most of the alders and wards that were served by shot spotter, covered by shot spotter, really wanted it, and he just didn't care. He had his, he didn't listen to them, and that. Again, that the shot spotter and its value is a good conversation to have, but it didn't seem very collaborative. That he had made up his mind on that and just went ahead. And
I know it was a campaign promise that he made that he'd get rid of shot spotter, but It's okay to get in office and say, I said, on the campaign trail, I was going to get rid of ShotSpotter. I now have access to more information on this program than I had before. I now understand that there are neighborhoods that actively want this. So I'm going to put that particular issue to rest for now. I will revisit it. And, if communities decide they don't want it, that I will take it up again. But, that's what you do. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, he's got a background as an activist and a background as an organizer, and doesn't have a background as an executive. And, I don't either. So, but I can see from the sidelines how not having that talent, not really understanding how to move people, how to get people who don't necessarily agree with you on everything onto your side for key votes. It's not a skill that he's developed yet. And he keeps talking about, he's going to be the longest-serving mayor in Chicago history. I have serious doubts that he will win a second term. Now, his popularity rating, his approval rating is something like 15% right now. Now, the argument will be that, you can't beat somebody with nobody, and who's going to step forward and challenge him?
Well, from everything I've read, the different newsletters, especially Shia Kapos, I would say at this moment in time, there are at least 12 people who are ready to jump into this mayor's race. Even that isn't going to happen for the election's in 3 years?
In 2027, yeah. So yeah, in 2 years from now, it'll be going hot and heavy, because it'll be early 2027.
There's blood in the water, and the sharks are circling.
Well, people are talking about Arnie Duncan. They're talking about Susana Mendoza again. They're talking about Alderman Conway. There are a number of
Cam Buckner, Mike Quigley.
Quigley seems to have no appetite for it. He's a congressman up here on the Northwest Side. I think he's comfortable there. I know Susana Mendoza wants the job. She's got some, problems being tied to Burke and Madigan that will probably that have hampered her in the past. I think that's why she didn't do any better last time. As those stories are more and more in the rearview mirror, she might do better. I don't know that Arnie Duncan wants it. People keep talking about him. I think there's some alders. Wagaspack might want it. Like I said, Conway might want it. You might see Paul Vallis jumping back in, although I can't. Obviously Willie Wilson is going to run, of course. So you might have this enormous primary field like we've had the last two times around for mayor. But I've been keeping an eye on that, because I think you're going to see some people coming forward, and it might be that he'll, like Mayor Lightfoot before him, he may end up not making it through the first round. The top two, the way elections work, mayoral elections now work in Chicago, it's a nonpartisan run, and if you get 50%, you win, and that's it. But in the last several times, they've had such a large field that the winner has not had 50%. So we go into a runoff at the top two, and so it could well be. Tony Preckwinkle could come back, I suppose. But there are a number of people who want that job, and I don't know exactly. And Johnson does have some things he can run on, but all this chaos. And I really think that if he has his fingerprints, I said, on the metaphorical knife in Pedro Martinez's back, given the support that Martinez has with principals in the system, and given the reason that they're getting rid of Martinez, which is to suck up to the teachers union, that's going to play really poorly with voters in town. And our voters in town do like the teachers union. The teachers union gets a lot of support, but I think something like this will seem like it's too heavy a power play from Johnson, and I think it's going to be a politically disastrous move for him. But he doesn't see around corners like that very well. He doesn't. No. He for someone who wants to be mayor for 28 years or whatever he wants to be, he's not seeing his way around the corners very well and seeing, well, okay, what are voters looking for here?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Eric and I are going to take a real quick break. We're going to be back with more after this.
Stay on top of the latest news in and around Chicago with Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive. Every weekday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Attention, everyone. Don't turn that dial. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, returns right now on WCPT 820.
I'm joined by founder and editor of the Picayune Sentinel, Eric Zorn. Eric is going to be here Friday, January 3rd, filling in for me. Please call in and talk to him and bring the same kind of energy that you bring here every day. He deserves nothing less. I want to talk to you about something that I mentioned briefly, I see you sent me the list of the people who might be interested in running for mayor, and you did a poll on it. I didn't realize this. How did I miss this poll?
I don't know. I was going to say
I always answer your polls.
Well, I asked. I made a list of a dozen or so names, maybe more than that, of names that I had heard floated for mayor, and asked people which names they would like to see on the ballot. And the top five were Arnie Duncan, Susana Mendoza, the comptroller of Illinois, Mike Quigley, the congressman, 5th District Congressman, Paul Vallis, and Inspector General Joe Ferguson. Or former Inspector General Joe Ferguson, and who has
Joe
reputation.
Ferguson talked about wanting to be mayor?
No, he has not. And I've talked to him about it, and he's not. He says he's not interested now. Could he be drafted? Yes, I suppose he could. The thing is that with people like Ferguson, who has I think a good reputation for sanity and good leadership ability and integrity. He doesn't have the money, though, and it takes a lot of money to run for office. I think if you look at those people, the person who could get the money right away, Duncan could, as the former U.S. Secretary of Education. Susana Mendoza could, and then going down into the alders, I think Alderman Riley, State Rep Cam Buckner could get the money. Mayor Rahm Emanuel, former Mayor Rahm Emanuel is on that list. I don't think he has ambitions to come back. But you have some of these people who are less well known. The problem is getting the money to run. And
I remember talking to Paul before he ever was in the race last time around, and I was asking him about whether or not he felt that was something he was going to do, and he said that it takes minimally. You need to have a commitment of $7 or $8 million to even basically think about getting into the mayor's race. And at that time when we talked, he said, somebody calls me up and says, I'm going to back you. I've got $8 million sitting around and I think you should be the next mayor. He said, that's going to be a different story. But he said, I personally don't have $8 million that I can use to fund a campaign. Obviously, that worked out to some degree for him. Not in the end, but he did get the money.
Yeah, he did, and I think he may have even outspent Johnson. I'm not sure, but Mayor Johnson talked a good game. The thing that I kept wondering about Johnson and asking about was what is his plan B when this idea that he has of raising certain taxes that he has no ability to raise doesn't fly in Springfield, for instance. How's he going to, or certain taxes get shot down? He had an idea this time around to raise the alcohol tax, the liquor tax, by something like 34%, which didn't strike me as a terrible idea. I mean, it's a sort of a sin tax, but our liquor tax hasn't been raised in a while, and it seemed like but there was just such a loud outcry they couldn't get that passed. So I mean, you have these ideas, but they have to pass muster with the public, and they're going to be a lot of pushback. And when that doesn't happen, what's your plan B? And he just never seemed to have one. So,
and the difficulty with a sin tax is that the city of Chicago is not that large, and if you really, if you don't want to pay the extra tax on your case of vodka, it's not that difficult to drive out of the city to a suburb that is more to your liking. So the sin taxes, I don't think, always bring about the revenue that the people behind them hope they will.
Yeah, that's true. And you have fairly high taxes on pot sales in Illinois. It's a lot cheaper if you want to go to Michigan, for instance, to buy your gummies. And alcohol, gasoline, all those things are cheaper elsewhere. And, yeah, people are mobile. So, and there's always this thing where people go to Indiana to buy their cigarettes and come back with huge,
exactly,
truckloads full of cigarettes. So, yeah, there is that problem that you don't want it to be out of scale with where it normally would be. So, yeah, it's I don't know why anyone wants the job of mayor of Chicago. It seems like so demanding and so thankless in so many ways. I can't. You're always running up against these realities, these enormous pension debts they have, and these intractable crime problems and housing problems, and we're going to have a big issue coming up with immigration and Donald Trump, and it's going to be a tough winter, I think.
Is it just having an ego as big as All Outdoors? Because I feel the same way. Why would anybody want such a thankless job? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, the possibility of doing good things and leaving a mark is always out there for a politician, and and to say things like, "Well, I've helped raise the minimum wage," or "I've done things that are good for people," or "I've created jobs on the West Side," "I've boosted youth employment programs." I mean, those are good things, and those are things that you can say, "I want those to happen," and this is something that I can take to my grave as my legacy that I've done some good things. And when you have a successful politician, they've certainly succeeded in far more ways than a newspaper columnist or a radio talk show host have succeeded. So there is that.
Well, I don't know.
Also,
I think when you're especially a columnist and you have a great readership, I think that's an incredible power. I mean, when I was on television, I was not in a position where I offered my opinions. But, if somebody sensed a certain feeling of mine, it had outsized weight. I mean, it was a real sort of responsibility to be careful with that kind of thing. I think I understand as a columnist, you got your share of trolls and everything. I just think it's you had a lot of power. You probably still have a lot of power with the Picayune Sentinel, and you don't have any of the grief.
Very little of the grief. People can email me, by the way, ericzorn@gmail, and I'm glad to put you on the list for free.
Woohoo!
So.
Yes.
Joan, thanks. It's always good to talk to you.
Always good to have you on. Thank you, Eric. We are going to take a break for news. We're going to be back with much more after this.
Hey, where's Hal Sparks? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPT 820 for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live.
Celebrating our power to bring about change.
Local.
Everybody has to work together.
And progressive.
I think you get the idea.
On WCPT 820.
We have been talking, I was just talking with Eric about how it seems like there are a lot of rank and file liberals, progressives, Democrats of all stripes who are really wanting to get up on their back legs and fight this incoming Donald Trump administration. The Indivisible National Group has put out a new Indivisible guide, which is this time around really directed specifically at ways to resist Donald Trump. But there are also some people who, at least through the holidays, just feel like they need to take a break. This last loss was so disheartening for so many people that it may take a while before we are marching in the streets again. Marj Halperin is here from Indivisible Chicago. Marj, how are you doing in the wake of this big loss?
I might be in that latter category. Are you hearing an echo from me?
I don't think so. Lady B says she just fixed it.
She did fix it.
She's good that way.
Yeah, she's got all the tricks, way more than I do, that's for sure. Well, so I'm kind of in that latter category. I mean, I'll be ready to do what needs to be done, but I think I'm helping myself sleep at night by waiting to focus on what Trump actually does and paying a little less attention to what he says. My phrase of the week is that hyperbole is the language that he speaks, the only language he speaks, and I shouldn't get too frantic about the nutty things he says, but let's wait and see what he does. He can certainly do a lot of harm, but we're watching Congress right now try to figure out how to follow his instructions, and they're not doing such a good job so far.
Yeah. The Washington Post is reporting that Republicans say that they have a new budget bill that they are trying to get support for. You know, there was supposed to be a vote. There had been a negotiated bipartisan budget, was going to take us at least through March. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump said, well, wait a minute, I want something in there about the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling has either got to be raised or it's got to be scrapped and so apparently Mike Johnson has found some kind of language to suspend the debt limit for 2 years. And that has now been entered into the budget bill. I don't know if there are other changes to the bill that everybody had agreed to other than that. But now apparently Mike Johnson is trying to corral those crazy kids in the Congress to see if he can get enough of them to sign on to it. But I think this is what we can expect. I think it's going to be a chaotic presidency. Donald Trump knew these negotiations were happening. You know that a Boy Scout, a Trumper like Mike Johnson was probably keeping him apprised at every step of what was going to be negotiated. And then when it's done, all of a sudden, he's got like, oh, wait, you forgot this. So I think what we've seen today is going to be what we see for at least the next 2 years. That's my prediction. What do you think?
I think so. And I think, sure, Trump was uninformed. I have no doubt, down to every detail. But maybe they forgot to fill in unelected Vice President Elon Musk, who was the first to complain about the bill that did have bipartisan approval, and then Trump and Vance quickly scrambled to agree with him and reinforce what he said. So they have a problem here as to who's calling the shots. It appears to be Musk at the moment, which is frightening, I would
President
say.
Musk? I'm sorry, were you referring to President Musk?
Yeah, Puppet Master Musk, yes, I was.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. Well, it's a lot scary. He wanted first to shut down the government until Trump comes in. He has no concept, apparently, of what that would mean for the country.
No, that would take actually learning about it. Come on, he's a busy guy. You can't expect him, to spend time figuring all this out, which is why I don't think, even though, of course, his ego will be flattered, why I don't think that he will be a serious contender to be the next Speaker of the House, as some Republicans would like to see Mr. Musk as their new leader. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's absurd. I don't think that could happen. I know there's a technical loophole by which that could happen. He hasn't been elected by anybody. It would certainly go to the courts. I can't imagine that would happen. And I think Trump will be foolish to waste capital on that.
Well,
I don't know that Musk actually wants to work that hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, he runs these multi-billion-dollar businesses.
I think that's the real stumbling block. That would be like an actual job, Marge.
Right, which he's never had, by these standards. Yeah, he's got jobs and he works, but he has a lot of people who do the work for him. He's not going to have that. No, I doubt that he even wants that. I would be surprised.
Yeah.
He's got a good, unaccountable. He doesn't want accountability.
Right. And he's not accountable to anybody right now. I don't know. Maybe I guess we could say he's accountable to Trump. I just don't think.
Kind of the other way around.
Yeah. I don't think this romance, this bromance, I don't think it can last. They're both narcissists. They both believe that they are the smartest guy in any room. And, you know, the number of people on social media this morning, tongue-in-cheek, referring to President Musk this, President Musk that, I think it's going to be very, very quickly that's going to get under Donald Trump's skin in a very big way.
I agree. I think he certainly doesn't like those memes, the puppet master memes that I'm also seeing on social media. He's not going to want that at all. So how he deals with it, I don't know. On the other hand, he just has this need to surround himself with billionaires who kowtow to him. But Musk doesn't do that. So yeah, you're right. I don't get it. I don't see how this is going to go very long. And I can't imagine Vance is very happy with the whole scenario.
Ooh, now you get to the heart of it. You know, when they were still campaigning, I said, you know, that Donald ought to be very careful about J.D. Vance, because I can see him as the kind of guy that's going to sneak into the White House in the middle of the night and put a pillow over Donald Trump's face, and, you know, whoa, he had a heart attack. Oh, well, you know, he was older and he was out of shape. You know, it stood to reason. I think that he is a viper, and Donald Trump is going to rue the day that he thought that would be a good selection. But you know what? Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my twisted mind.
I don't know. I don't know. He surrounds himself with all these, you know, narcissists. How does he think that's going to play out exactly? You raised some good questions.
Yep. I don't think it's going to turn out quite the way that he hopes it's going to turn out. So you said that one thing that you are doing for your mental health going forward is making sure you concentrate not on, you know, all the crazy social media posts, not on all the hyperbole, but waiting to see what Donald Trump actually does. And that's how you're preserving your sanity in these crazy times. I think that makes a lot of sense, what you're doing.
Yeah, you know, it's not like he can't do harm. He'll do harm. It'll do what, you know, January 20th can be a painful day for all of us in those first 10 days or 100 days. But then the lawsuits, the legal challenges to what he's doing will start. He's going to have to maintain majority in Congress. I think he's picked 3 members of Congress to be in his cabinet, so that's 3 vacancies. That slims down their majority in the House to 1, and you can already see that they can't corral the people they have now. So lose 3 more, and he's going to have the most narrow majority in, I don't know, 100 years or something. There's somebody who's calculated that, but not me. So it's going to be a challenge. And the Senate, I would like to think the Senate will still be the more serious chamber. They've got 6 years. They're kind of, you know, mostly they're in there for life. There are some who do get voted out or resign or, you know, but if they want to stay, mostly they can because of their term and because of their statewide votes as opposed to the gerrymandered districts of the House, right? So I'm hoping they continue to be the more serious body and take democracy to heart in a way the flamethrowers, bomb throwers of the House aren't going to do. We'll see. I mean, we'll know soon, right?
I heard one prediction that the Senate would appease Donald Trump until the midterms, and then after the midterms, when he can't really hurt them as badly, that's when we might see people actually standing up to him. That, you know, they don't want, because he's already said, like with this budget thing, it was like, if you don't agree with what I'm telling you to do, I promise you I will make sure you are primaried in the midterms. But once the midterms come and go, I mean, he's a lame duck president lasting for another 2 years. And I think that's when we might see some backbone. Or maybe that's just my hope. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't looked carefully at which Republican senators are up in 2026.
There's quite a number of them. You know, Democrats had a large number in the last election. This time it's definitely skewed the other way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm looking real quickly to see what I can see. 20 seats in 2026? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that is the number I'm seeing in a quick Google. That's not counting the special election to fill Vance's seat or Mark Rubio's. So we'll have those two to follow. And believe me, activists around the country are going to be writing postcards and making calls for both of those special elections. But also I'm seeing in a quick look here from an article from Roll Call, as many as 10 of the incumbents may have MAGA challengers. Now, I don't know how well those MAGA challengers are going to do 2 years from now. No one knows. But Trump may have some successes, and he may well have some disasters, or at least failures to live up to his promises. He's already said he's not going to lower grocery prices after all, after saying he
that's
would,
hard.
Dozens
Didn't you know,
of times.
Marj? I'm not sure. That's hard. When prices are already high, it's hard to lower them.
Yeah, we knew that, didn't we?
Some of us did.
But, yeah, he promised, and people believed him. So we'll see. And the tariffs, is he going to go crazy with tariffs? That'll also tank the economy and raise prices further. Will he – the mass deportations are a really interesting kind of threat because, on the one hand – to have the largest mass deportation in American history is a pretty low bar. We haven't had mass deportations in any recent time, if ever. We had internment, of course, of Japanese Americans, but we didn't deport them. So what does he need to do? If he cleans the jails of undocumented criminals, he could claim he's done it. But if he starts taking families out of our neighborhoods, your kids come home from school and say, what happened to the boy who used to sit next to me? I think that's going to backfire. So 2 years from now, those MAGA challenges might not look so good. We don't know. I want to be optimistic about it. It's not a given. It's not in any way a given that he will succeed.
Yeah. I'm talking to Marj Halperin from Indivisible Chicago. We are going to take a break and be back with more after this.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
I'm talking to Marj Halperin from Indivisible Chicago. Marj, I've been reading a lot of people who are mad, angry that Joe Biden is going to attend Donald Trump's inauguration. I know he was asked that when he sat down with the Midas Touch people in an interview recently, and he said, of course I'm going to be there, and basically with the exception of Donald Trump, that's how this country works. This is how the transfer of power works. I mean, he didn't say that in those exact words, but and I there's a lot of things that I may offer as criticisms of Joe Biden, past and present, but deciding to attend the inauguration isn't one of them. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I still like the gentleman Joe aspect of his personality. I don't want him politically to be too kind. That is, I hope he's doing everything that could be done right now in order to protect civil service and other aspects of the government. And he seems to be fast-tracking EPA grants and that kind of thing That's what matters to me more, that he's there protecting the policies that we elected him to put in place. This is one case where Trump goes low, and I'm fine with him going high. Now, I would expect that Trump will go even lower and in his speech direct some rudeness to Biden because that's who he is, and good for Biden for standing there to take whatever Trump might dish out. That's one of the reasons I respect him.
I think that's absolutely a Donald Trump's MO, but my sense is, like a lot of bullies, he is a coward, and I don't think he will make cracks about Joe Biden while Joe Biden is sitting there looking at him. If Joe Biden weren't there, I think that would, but I don't even remember even during his presidency, he tried to get other people to fire people he wanted fired and didn't want to ever fire somebody face to face. Even when he fired Rex Tillerson, he did it by tweet when Rex was on a plane going somewhere or coming home from somewhere. If you are in his presence, I think he's too afraid to say something like that to your face.
Well, I would say this. If he does, he won't look Biden in the eye.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure he wouldn't because he's riding high on his base. So I don't know. I hope you're right, but I'm not so sure. On the other hand, he didn't attend the Biden inaugural because he insisted it was rigged, right? It wasn't legit. He had to leave, but he said it wasn't legit. But Biden respects the outcome of this election, and showing up is a way to underscore the democratic process and orderly transfer of power, which this might be the last time, but it's not on his head if it is. So I respect that. I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it, too, but maybe I'm about to talk out of both sides of my mouth. After he had Trump at the White House, when he and Jill and Donald Trump came outside of the White House for a photo op, I would have been fine. You know, that's tradition. They meet. They could have done a photo op, but Jill and Joe had these huge, gleeful smiles, like they had just had lunch with Nelson Mandela, or I don't know, somebody really like Barack and Michelle. And I was like, okay, you met with him, you came out for a photo op. Did you have to look quite so gleeful? Couldn't there have been a little bit? It could have been a gentle smile, like, yes, I met with him. You guys voted him in. Doesn't mean I think he's a great guy. I don't know. Do you think I'm being, hypocritical there? But that photo just, it gave me the creeps.
Yeah, there are degrees of civility, and he could have dialed it back. I didn't get as upset about it as you seem to be, but I don't think there's anything wrong with him curbing his enthusiasm, let's say.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But they're going to cooperate. Remember when Clinton White House left all the computers, took off, like you couldn't even do that anymore, right? But took all the W keys off the computers, typewriters, whatever there was back then. So they couldn't type his name. Like, we don't want to be that. I don't think that's necessary.
Would be pretty funny, though, wouldn't it? Come on. Come on. You would chortle. I would chortle.
I would. I did then. It's not like I didn't. But it was creative. But it's, we need to be focused on other things. Like I said, there's a lot of work that can be done in these remaining weeks to protect the advances that have been made. And we do see evidence that the administration is doing that. I was reading today about protections against Schedule F. That's what Trump has vowed to reinstitute, to take thousands off the civil service rolls. That could be the biggest disaster of any of the things he's promised to do, in my opinion, because the bureaucracy is a bulwark for democracy, and if they cut that down, I'm not sure what will happen, especially if they take people out of management positions when the people who are running the departments are so ill-equipped to do so. You know what I mean? So you got somebody like Hegseth, but at least you have the generals and the staff, or look at the Justice Department, and you have such competent middle management people that if Patel gets in there, he's not going to know how to run the FBI, but they do. So we need those people there. So I'm reading that there are ways they're changing job titles, especially like the EPA. They're taking phrases like climate change and clean air, other things out of project descriptions to maybe they still will be funded. They're all thinking about how to protect the policies and the advances, and that's what they need to be doing, and eventually we'll get a whole list of what they did, and we'll find out how successful they are at protecting any or all of it.
Yeah. Yes, we will. We will find out, and let's hope when we do find out that the news is reassuring. Marj, thank you so much. Always so much fun to talk with you.
Thanks for having me. And I want to say I can't follow Eric Zorn without noting that I am also a member of the Mincing Rascals podcast. While I am proud of the work I do with Indivisible, I'm speaking for myself as a commentator and pundit. And those who are interested in the work of Indivisible should by all means go to indivisiblechicago.com. We are organizing the resistance as I speak. There are meetings that are happening. There have been 2 or 3 of them already this month, and there will be more in January. So I hope folks will join the efforts of Indivisible, which is part of a national network that is organizing. Remember, when Trump was elected the first time, there was no Indivisible, Move On, Sister District. All of these sprung up after. But we've had plenty of years of experience under our belts, and so we just need more people to do more work so we can stand up.
Excellent. Excellent. We will talk about that again in the future and remind people because I know a lot of people who listen to this station are just the kind of people who want to get out there and get involved. Marj Halperin, Indivisible Chicago, and the Mincing Rascals podcast. Thank you so much. We are going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
I am very pleased to welcome back to our airwaves Carolyn Fiddler. We have always been talking to her about her newsletter, This Week in State House Action, but unbeknownst to us, she went out and got another very high-profile job. She's now the communications director at the Democratic Attorneys General Association. Carolyn, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Have you met Jeff Jackson? Do you sit in on their meetings?
I mean, some of them. I mean, they are attorneys, so they do talk legal work product every now and again. Of course, I can't sit in on that. It would mess up privilege. But I have met Jeff Jackson, Attorney General-elect Jeff Jackson, and he is a delight. I know you're a huge fan, and he holds up in person, for sure. He's not just a pretty face on TikTok. He has a lot of substance to him as well.
I am so glad to hear you say that because, just because somebody posts videos that you find engaging and interesting, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be engaging and interesting in real life. So I'm glad that he did not disappoint. So what do you do for the Democratic Attorneys General Association?
Well, I'm their communications director, which means I have a very daunting job for the next few years. because with another Trump presidency, it's Democratic attorneys general who are going to be taking him to court when he is likely to do based on his statements and actions so far when he breaks the law or tries to do unconstitutional things. It's Democratic AG's job to stand up for the rule of law and for the Constitution.
I'm sorry, I think you got the president wrong. Isn't it President Musk? I think you misspoke. And I've heard Donald Trump is either. Some people say he's the vice president, and some people say he's actually the first lady.
Ooh, spicy.
You're a communications person, so. When Elon Musk came out and started posting about this was a bad budget and Republicans shouldn't vote for it, it was like an hour or so later before we heard or saw or read any posts from Donald Trump on this. And I'm thinking, did he send Elon out there to take the heat? Or did he not know Elon was going to fly off like this? And he posted the same thing an hour later to look like, they were both on the same page. I thought that was weird that Elon was the one to complain about the budget before Trump did. Is that weird?
It's very, very weird. Like, on one hand, yeah, maybe Trump did send him out to take the heat for doing something really bad and incredibly unpopular even among his own party. Or maybe, Elon just got out over his skis and Donald Trump was catching up. Either way, it's a terrible indicator for the amount of power that Elon Musk has right now.
There was one report that I read that said that Republican aides are telling reporters privately that in January, Mike Johnson does not have the votes he needs to stay on as Speaker. Now, anything can happen between now and then, and it's a pretty thankless job. But if it isn't going to be Mike Johnson, who do you think? Would we see the resurrection of Jim Jordan? I know some people are floating Elon Musk's name, but I can't see him wanting an actual job with actual parameters that he would have to be limited by.
Right. Once he learns it's more than just banging a gavel, he's probably going to not be into it. I would not be shocked to see Jim Jordan come back into the nasty limelight in that way, but it's hard to know who's going to have the votes. One thing you can say about Democrats is they've always had a united caucus. Once they make a decision, they're all in, and no matter how narrow their majority is, they're gonna hang together, and that has just not been true of Republicans, even when they had a slightly bigger majority in this current about to end Congress. And next year, their majority is even tinier. And, there's just no way Mike Johnson holds on. And he knows that.
Yeah. What do you think about some people are stirring about the vote for the Democratic lead on the Oversight Committee? Nancy Pelosi supported Jerry Connolly, a 74-year-old white guy who is currently battling cancer, and he was able to garner like 50-some more votes than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And a lot of people are bemoaning, Democrats had a perfect opportunity to change the guard and bring in some younger voices. And other people are saying, no, Jerry Connolly, you're going to like the fact that he's in that job. He's experienced. He's good. What are your thoughts on that? You pay more attention to people in the State House than I do up close.
Yeah, and Jerry Connolly is a Virginian, so I also pay attention to him because of that, because I'm a terrible Virginia snob. But a lot of people were surprised, and a lot of people dismayed, I think, to see Jerry get that spot. But there has been a changing of the Democratic guard in the House. A lot of other committee leadership positions went to younger, newer members instead of who was next in line.
Are you talking about like Jamie Raskin taking over judiciary from Jerry Nadler? Are you have other examples?
The ag committee. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but also agriculture. I had a surprise upstart get that slot as well. So so clearly Democratic leadership is aware of the complaint and it does want to address it. I agree that Connolly will be good in this role. I also agree that Ocasio-Cortez would have been amazing in that role, but she's going to be amazing no matter what her position is in this Congress. And I have to think that House Democrats are too smart to just let her sit on the sidelines. I have no doubt they're going to put her in a spotlight position in some manner because they've got to be smart enough to do that. I have to believe they're smart enough to do that.
I don't pay as much attention to Virginia as you do. I don't really know that much about Jerry Connolly. What can you tell me about him?
He's a spark plug. He looks like he's kind of like a quiet guy. He just looks he looks like another member of Congress in a lot of ways, I think. But talk to him for like 3 minutes, and that man is fiery. He's definitely he's an older gentleman, but he is certainly not lost a step, and he has a lot of spark and a lot of fight in him. So he'll be good on that. He'll be good in that position. Oh yeah. He is no shrinking violet by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's good to hear because, the one thing that I've been, callers to this station, people who text in, as well as Democratic voices I follow on social media, seem to be decrying the fact that there doesn't seem to be a Democrat out there who's willing to take the gloves off and really fight. You think Jerry Connolly could be that guy?
I do think so. I absolutely do think so. But yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of, I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle are in a little bit of disarray right now. A lot of unexpected things are happening, like an agreed upon budget deal suddenly blowing up because one, right-wing billionaire sent some tweets about it. So I think we're in a lot of uncharted waters right now, and hopefully folks will get things figured out sooner rather than later.
I'm talking with Carolyn Fiddler. She created This Week in State House Action, the newsletter. She's also communications director at the Democratic Attorneys General Association. We are going to be right back after a break.
Podcasts of Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Amazon. Just search for Joan Esposito.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Don't turn that dial.
A dangerous mistake to make.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, returns right now on WCPT 820.
Joining me is Carolyn Fiddler, communications director at the Democratic Attorneys General Association. She also created the newsletter This Week in State House Action. You were talking at the beginning of our interview, Carolyn, about what attorneys general can do to resist some of the worst things that are probably going to come our way with this Trump administration. What kinds of things are they getting ready for?
They are getting ready for everything and anything. Trump has said a lot about what he plans to do, and on top of that, we have Project 2025 out there, which is a playbook that will probably provide a real policy framework for his presidency. So we kind of know what he is going to get up to. And, this obviously isn't anyone's first rodeo with Trump. He did hold office for 4 years, and Democratic attorneys general fought back against his unconstitutional and unlawful policies then. Like the Muslim ban is just the first thing that jumps to mind. And of the over 100 times that Democratic attorneys general sued the Trump administration over those 4 years, they won over 80% of the time. Because the law is the law, no matter what Donald Trump thinks or says or wants to do.
Do you think that they will still have that same kind of success rate with the current iteration of the Supreme Court, who seem to me to be pretty pro-Trump, pretty partisan?
That's an excellent question, and one that, a lot of people are very fairly asking. But not every case is going to make it all the way to the Supreme Court. There are a lot of other courts out there, and not all of them are fully stacked with Trump appointees. And even the ones that are, the law is the law. When Trump doesn't care what the law says. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he wants to do it in the quickest way possible. And a lot of times when you take those kinds of shortcuts, you're going to end up running afoul of the law or of the Constitution. The thing is, like, Democratic attorneys general aren't going to agree with an incoming Republican president, likely, especially Trump, on a lot of policy matters. But he is the duly elected president, and, you know, he gets to put in his agenda no matter how odious any Democrat finds it. But when he breaks the law, when he violates the Constitution, they are going to be there to hold him accountable no matter what.
And is this the kind of thing where if one attorney general brings a lawsuit that is successful, that other attorneys general can sort of use that model to try to get those same results in their state? Because I know I'm always talking about how, you know, even though we're obviously a progressive station, we keep an eye on the red states. Because especially like if it's something to do with abortion or something to do with book banning, if a red state gets something passed in their state legislature, then we see like copycats in other red states where they take those bills and they they figure, well, it worked there, it'll work here. Does your organization, the attorneys general in your organization, do they do that sort of sharing as well of ideas?
Oh, absolutely. Our attorneys general have a long history, and not just in the Trump administration, of collaborating around a lot of policy matters. They joined up to hold opioid manufacturers accountable. Just as one example, they work across a lot of policy areas together because, as a group, they are very strong. They are all also just really incredible lawyers in their own right, which is nice as we face whatever's coming at us over the next 4 years. So I'm really glad that they're on our side and not the other side. Because they're a really impressive group of folks, and I know they're going to do a lot to stave off some of the worst excesses of the Trump administration.
I was reading in the email you sent about things that the DAGA has done to this point, and I thought one thing that was interesting was their determination that they were going to have a pro-abortion litmus test, that they were only going to support attorneys general and attorney general candidates who were pro-abortion. I thought that was absolutely wonderful, and I'm wondering how that decision was made.
That's an excellent question. That decision was made before my time because I think, and I would not swear on a stack of Bibles that this is true, but I think that we were the first Democratic Party committee to put that litmus test into place. But, reproductive rights are fundamental rights. Everyone has the right to control their own body. And if you stand up for rights and freedoms and the rule of law and constitutional rights, that's the thing that you need to stand for. It was an easy call.
When Donald Trump was in office before and attorneys general opposed various measures on constitutional grounds, how long does that effort take? I assume it's at least months, if not a year or more. Is it a way to keep the worst of Donald Trump's impulses in check, at least in the short term?
Actually, I'll use the Muslim ban as an example again. I mean, yes, these cases always take quite a lot of time relative to these policies' impact on people's lives to make it through the courts. However, there are injunctions available. Injunctive relief is a real thing that can happen very quickly, and that's what happened with the Muslim ban. There was a very quick injunction that blocked its implementation because Democratic attorneys general got together and said, you know what, this is super illegal. You can't do this.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's why that one was blocked before it had to go through all the courtroom machinations that do take quite a lot of time.
Yeah. You said that they have been meeting. Can you, without giving away any secrets, can you tell us one thing that they are expecting to happen, that they are trying to prepare for?
mean, Trump has told us all what he plans to do. I think everyone pretty fairly expects on day one he's going to start taking measures to round up immigrants and deport them. And a lot of legal residents and American citizens are going to get caught up in these indiscriminate raids. And, our attorney general already reaching out to residents in their states, making sure everyone knows their rights. And they're preparing to, see what such a policy looks like. And if Trump does something illegal or unconstitutional, they're going to take action.
Yeah. Donald Trump has already said that if mayors or state reps or governors get in his way, that he's going to try to have them all arrested, which I think would be interesting to see. I know because we are a very blue state, we seem, especially with Chicago, seems to be one of Donald Trump's favorite cities to target. I can't imagine that's legal. Is it legal? Could that happen?
I mean, if there needs to be probable cause to make any kind of arrest, but if you have people carrying badges willing to do that for you, yes, arrests could possibly happen, whether they're legal or not. But our attorney general are staying on top of all these threats and are aware of what they could be facing down over the next 4 years. But they took oaths of office to the residents of their states, to their state constitutions, and to the U.S. Constitution. And they are not going to back down when it comes to protecting those rights and freedoms.
Wow. What do you think the next couple of years is going to feel like and look like?
A lot of caffeine, because there are going to be a lot of late nights. I think it's going to be really hectic. I think he's going to throw a lot of things, of policies and executive orders at the wall, and he'll wait to see what sticks. And he has a group of people that he plans to appoint to key positions who are certainly in line with his quote unquote vision for the country. And I think it's going to be pretty ugly for a while. I hope I'm wrong. I really wish. I would love to be wrong, but I think it could get a lot worse before it gets better.
And do you take him at his word that the deportations are going to start on day one?
Honestly, I do. He has staked so much of his campaign rhetoric on this, and even after the election, he keeps talking about it. This is clearly something he wants to do, and I'm sure he's talking to the people who would execute such a terrible policy. I'm sure he's talking to them about what it takes to make that happen. He's not gonna start doing his homework on Inauguration Day. He's doing it now, and as soon as he has that power, I bet he's good. I think it's really fair to expect he's going to act.
Oh, my. Well, Carolyn, thank you for being here. Please tell Jeff I say hello.
I brought you nothing but bad news.
I
feel so bad.
I know. But I'm going to ask you back in the future anyway, just because I like talking to you.
I appreciate that. And hopefully I'll have some really good, status reports in terms of what Democratic attorneys general are doing to fight, unlawful and unconstitutional policies.
You will be my go-to on that, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Carolyn.
Excellent.
Carolyn
Thank you for having
Fiedler,
me.
You're very welcome, is the communications director at the Democratic Attorneys General Association, and she was also the creator of This Week in State House Action, that newsletter. I am going to wrap things up right now. Tomorrow is going to be my last show before the holidays, so hopefully, I'm going to jinx myself. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun. It'll be a little bit lighter. Oh, yes, she just did it. The world's going to come to an end. Anyway, maybe we'll have a budget vote, maybe. Hope springs eternal. Anyway, Tony Fitzpatrick is going to join me. That'll be a really good time. And Petty Vasquez is going to be here in just a couple of minutes. She has a co-host, Dan Schaefer. That will be a fun show. And tomorrow, of course, Richard Chu kicks off our day at 6 a.m. He will be talking to Karen Byrne of the True Blue Politics podcast. That's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Choose Views. I, of course, will be here at 2 o'clock. And remember, tomorrow's Friday, so we're going to keep the phone lines open a little bit longer than we do the rest of the week. The first half of the show, we are going to be taking your calls, and hopefully I will not be ranting over much. Have a great evening, my friends. Stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow. Good.